welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. This is a Benelli Lupo bolt action rifle. Now I reviewed one of these in 308 about a year ago and found it to be a very good rifle. Very accurate, very consistent actually. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But this one's now in 223 and it's the granite moss version. So rather than being the black stock, it's got quite an attractive sort of grey, green stippled effect on the stock here. Now this one is supplied with a 22-inch 223 barrel, but I've been told that when they actually come online mainstream, they're all going to be 20-inch barrels. That shouldn't make a huge amount of difference, and a 20-inch 223 is a very compact rifle. It's actually a great pleasure to use, and all my own 223 rifles are actually 20-inch as well. Now this barrel has got Benelli's cryo treatment, which is cryogenic, and it's basically a thermal treatment to make sure that when the barrel does get hot, you're not going to have problems with wandering groups. And I have to say, it has shot very well and it hasn't given me any wandering groups. This one's threaded 5/8 UNEF and I put a sound moderator on it. Comes with a thread cap on the barrel, and the barrel is fully floating in the stock, and the stock is stiff, so you're not going to make that actually touch the stock accidentally in any circumstances. Working from front to back, you've got a sling anchor point here on the fore end, but actually there's a little anchor point here. You can take that out, and Benelli do supply a screw-in stud for that, which I think is a really smart move, and it's something I would definitely do with this to be my own rifle. The stock is polymer. You've got all sorts of checkering on here which is inlaid to give you lots of grip. But the critical thing with these Benellis is, and this is what I found out when I took apart the 308 version, you've got a full aluminium centre chassis with the polymer stock effectively fashioned to that chassis, and then within that aluminium chassis you've got the steel action and steel barrel. This is a mechanically very good, stable system, and I think it's one of the things that makes these rifles shoot extremely well. The trigger is a single stage, very crisp in use. It's adjustable from 10 to 20 newtons, which is basically 1 to 2 kilograms. The one on this review rifle weighed in at 1,050 grams. I'm very happy using it, very crisp, nice to use. Flipping it over, let's have a look at the magazine. Now interestingly, in 223 you don't get many of these, but this one it's a twin column 223 magazine, so you can load them through the top, and it takes 5 rounds plus one in the chamber if you want, and the bolt itself is very nicely sculpted, so you don't have any problems closing the bolt like that and then loading the magazine if you want, because some rifles don't like that. This one's fine with it because the bolt has been all sculpted out in quite complex fashion. The bolt release catch is on the left side here, So if I pop that out, you can see it. Now it's a 3-lug bolt, gives you a 60-degree lift, and there's an extractor and ejector on the front here. So the ejector is a plunger ejector there, flicks the cases out very happily, and the extractor has plenty of primary extraction force, got the bolt out easily. Now when you look at the shape of this bolt in detail, you can see how it's been milled away to give very, very precise tolerances and clearances for that magazine to work beautifully inside. Keeps the action and the magazine system small, gives it full functionality, and I can also show on video that when you drop around straight on top of the magazine through the ejection port, it will still feed home to the chamber. That's not that common in 223 rifles, you know, mainly due to the fact you've got a small bullet and a small cartridge. The fact that Benelli does it, it's quite a nice thing. And although the bolt, you know, it's quite a large bolt, but it's not actually a long travel bolt, and this actually gives you very, very smooth feeding without any possibility of snagging on a magazine. So it's 60-degree lift. It's quite an unusual shape on the bolt handle, quite stylised, bit of Italian styling to that. Some people like it, some people may not so much, but I find it easy enough. Flick it out with my fingers, draw it back, very easy to operate with just that thumb and finger. I didn't really need to grab hold of it to heave it around. It was smooth in operation. The safety catch is a tang safety at the back here. It's forward for fire, safe dry fire, bang, back the bolt, that's cocked again. But if you pull it back for safe, the bolt is then locked and it won't fire. There is a small lever you can see just here, and if you press that down, the bolt will then open and you can get a safe unload on the rifle. Again, in reverse, safe dry fire, and there we go. That's very straightforward, easy to use, and it's smoothed up as I've been using the rifle. I do think though the rifle was easier when I was actually in the tripod. I had the front hand on there as well, and I could be a little bit more aggressive than when I was, you know, shooting from the rear bag with a hand underneath like that. Tends to move the rifle around a little bit more, but it's a sporting rifle, not a target rifle. Now the rifle's got the BEST Benelli treatment for corrosion resistance, and the whole rifle's warranted for 10 years. It's got Picatinny base on the top here, makes scope mounting very straightforward, and there's plenty of space. The rifle's proportions seem excellent. Length of pull on the standard version is 350 to 385 millimeters, and you do actually get spacers with it, so you can change that if you want to. And you can also change these cheek piece elements, so you can change the amount of cone rays you've got on it to give you the most comfortable alignment. But I think for a sporting rifle it suited me. Some people might like harder cheek welds, some people might like it different. Those are available. One other thing that Benelli do is they supply these spacers here, so you can put these spacers in between the action and the stock, and that changes the length of pull or the reach from the grip to the trigger, which is an interesting thing that no one else is doing that, but Benelli are, so it's quite nice to see. The recoil pad is advertised with progressive comfort. In the 223, very little recoil. It's very stable in the shoulder, so it's more about the ergonomics. I like the radius top here. It goes into your shoulder very smoothly, locks into your shoulder nicely, and I quite like this sort of checkered pattern on the back here, grips in your shoulder nicely, and on the underside you have another sling anchor point to go on there, but that's been kept in line with the stock, so it's not actually going to catch your hand or anything like that under recoil. And the rifle is very comfortable to shoot. It's been absolutely perfect shooting on paper and shooting some steel with it. The grip has an ambidextrous palm swell, and the rifle is completely shootable left-handed if you want to, although it is still a right bolt action. I do like a sporting rifle I can swap both ways though. Of course, the tang mounted safety is equally ambidextrous, and those grippy panels with finger grooves at the front too mean you've got excellent adhesion to the rifle, and you're not going to lose or like slip out of your hands in bad conditions. It's warm summer days today, so no problem at all, but when it's cold, wet, icy in the winter, this rifle will really stand up to it. And of course the BEST coating is going to give you that superb corrosion resistance. Now, Benelli supply one of the most detailed instruction books I think I've seen with a rifle. It goes all through how to change the stock geometry, things like that, setting it up, and it gives you a full list of all the parts for things like the trigger as well, which is, of course, as I said, adjustable by the user. You get a small bottle of lubrication oil with it, as well as, like I said, you get the recoil pad spacers as well to change length of pull. And if you've got particularly big or small hands, that will be beneficial to you, although I find the rifle very comfortable to shoot. But in a 223 with very little recoil, it's not the test of a rifle like shooting a large 30 caliber or something bigger still with more recoil, and you do need to make sure your ergonomics are even better on something like that. Overall weight's 3.2 kilograms and overall length on this version, which is a 560mm barrel, is 1072 millimeters. That, when a production gun, will be a little bit shorter, it'll be 50mm shorter, so it'll be a 510mm barrel and it'll be 1020mm overall length for the 223 version. The rifle is available in lots of other cartridges and calibers. As I said in past, I've shot it in 308, it shoots really well in that too. The 308 cartridge is probably the benchmark of all rifle reviews I've ever done, and when you shoot one in that cartridge, which is of course got a little bit more recoil than a 223, you get a much better gauge of the handling mechanics of the gun and the ergonomics overall, and it was no different to this. Both very enjoyable to shoot, recoil was soft and progressive, and it was linear without too much muzzle lift. The actual balance point on the rifle, as you would expect, is somewhere just ahead of the action, but of course in these days where most people are going to be adding moderators or at least even muzzle brakes, balance will change ever so slightly, and it will suit you, of course, just like the scope as well can change the balance point too. Shooting it from the actual tripod with a clamp on the front here, there's no point of impact shift, so I was quite happy with that. And again, like I said, it's a fully floating barrel and the stock is stiff with a big generous free float, so you're not going to have any intermittent contact there. I wasn't actually able to find out what the rifling twist was on this barrel, so I just shot 3 different cartridges through it, which I think are going to be fairly commonly encountered. I always shoot 55 grain VMAX Hornady because that is my go-to ammunition in any 223 for, you know, a little bit of impromptu target, but mostly for vermin and foxing use. I also tried some of the 50 grain CX, which is another one of my favourite cartridges. I shoot a lot of things for birds of prey, so you have to make sure you're using non-toxic copper for that because birds do not like any kind of lead in their diet. The other cartridge I tried was this Hornady Frontier. This is a 68 grain boat tail hollow point match cartridge. I wasn't 100% sure if this would work or not, but it worked fine. It's more of a low cost plinking cartridge, and of course it's a match cartridge, boat tail hollow points. You get a little bit more long range ballistic coefficient, things like that with it, if that's what you want your cartridge for. And of course this is an economy cartridge too, whereas the VMAX and the CX are a little bit more expensive because they're designed for controlled expansion, or in the VMAX's sense, it's rapid expansion for varminting. Overall, my opinion of the Benelli is very good. I thought it was easy to shoot, it was easy to use. I liked the trigger was crisp. Bolt handling just gets more and more familiar every shot that goes through the rifle. Feeding is smooth, and of course with Picatinny mounts on top, it's very easy to add a scope. The barrel is screw cut, and I think most people are going to add a sound moderator. I use the Wildcat sound moderator, and on top I've got an Element Optics Helix 2 scope and Element mounts as well. Were the gun mine, I would definitely take that little plug out the front and put the stud in, which I think is a really smart thing for Benelli to include. Put the bipod on it because that's generally my favoured way of shooting 223, but you know, different people will shoot 223s from different scenarios. But this is an absolutely ideal pest control and small deer rifle, or just a bit of a plinking rifle, especially for shooters who don't want such a big gun or a heavy barrel. The 20-inch barrel rather than the 22-inch on here I don't think will be an issue at all, because as I said, I prefer 20-inch barrels on non-target related 223s, and the handling will only get just even slightly better with that slightly shorter barrel, because of course with most people adding a moderator you've got all the additional length that everybody ever wants there, so you might as well just chop 2 inches back off the barrel. You're going to get a full burn off the cartridge and muzzle velocities are still going to be more than acceptable. I will put a link in the description to Benelli's website, so please click on that. It'll take you to their page and it'll list all the options and different types of Benelli Lupo rifle that they're producing in different cartridges, chamberings, and of course the different stock options as well. Right, well I hope you've enjoyed watching that review. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment and click the notification bell and keep track of my regular uploads. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.